161 South Magnolia Street. It's the Golden Touch Tour, brought to you by the town of Mooresville. Don't miss your chance. Call in and win.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Good morning, Lake Norman. This is Cornelius, Mayor Woody Washam right here. Once again, you are about town, and we have a great show for you today, a very timely show as it relates to our town government, and that is a little budget discussion going on. One of the most important things that our board deals with, and me as mayor and our staff, is creating a new budget every year. The process never, ever, ever stops. It's just continual. Once we approve this budget, we may give them a couple of weeks off, but back in we go when the new fiscal year kicks in on July the 1st. So it's a busy, busy time as we complete this budget, and it will be presented to the Cornelius Town Board this coming Monday night. The meeting starts at 6 o'clock. If anybody has any input, we will continue our public hearing on the budget for 2026, and it will be a great discussion, I'm sure, and we will try to put this budget to bed on Monday night. If not, we will possibly kick it down the road one more meeting, but we've got to have the budget approved by the end of June for sure. So I think my hope is that we can get that done this week and take this off of the plate of our staff and our board and move on to many, many other important things that's on our plate for sure. So with me today, I have two esteemed staff members from the town of Cornelius to walk you through this exciting topic. And it is exciting because there's good things in this budget. It's a tough budget year for the town of Cornelius, as I'm sure it was municipalities up and down I-77. But it was a tough budget year because our goal was to keep our taxes down to whatever extent we possibly could and not cut your services in the town of Cornelius. And, I think we did a doggone good job with that. And, we call this at this point in time the manager's recommended budget until it's voted on by the board, and then it becomes the town's not recommended, but the town's actual budget. So there's two people with me here today that have done an immense amount of work, and one is our finance director. That would be Julie Niswonger, and Julie's been with the town about 23 years, I believe.
23 years, that's correct.
Yeah, that's a long time, and but a lot of experience there. And also Andrew Grant. Andrew has been our town manager now since probably for about 7 years, and he was with the town previous to that. His total time with the town is about 20, so y'all can do the math out there.
22.
All right, I missed it by a couple, but I love these longtime employees. They've got a wealth of knowledge that they have picked up, related and contoured to our little town of Cornelius, which is certainly nice. So I'm going to turn to Andrew first. Andrew, this is kind of your forte. You're a good you have a good accounting mind, and you can turn lemons into lemonade somehow, and I've seen you do it so many times. But you did have some challenges this year, didn't you?
Sure did. Yep.
And we like to provide all the great services that our citizens actually expect, and I think we ended up about doing that. But where all this really starts is asking our citizens what they want and what they expect. Isn't that right? Tell us about that, and tell us about that process.
Right. Yes. Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for having Julie and I on your show. Happy to be here talking about what dominates most of our lives for several months, and also the boards as well. But in that diametric, if you will, is the citizens' opinions. And Julie, I want to say 5, maybe 6 years straight, we have had a citizen budget survey that we've put out to the public, and we push it out on social media. We put it in our newsletter. We make it available any which way we can to get some citizen feedback about what their priorities are. And in that is we present them with a list of items and areas such as public works, parks and rec, transportation, public safety, and we ask our citizens to rank those in priority order. And they do that each year. And to the mayor's point, once we have that information, we use that to help inform us what's important to put in the budget for next year.
That's it sounds quite simple, but it turns out really not to be so simple sometimes because there's a lot of variable factors that go into that. From top to bottom, as it relates to our personnel, as it relates to our CIP projects, and the list goes on and on. And the fact of the matter is, transportation is such a critical component of what we're trying to actually create here in Cornelius. We've come a long way, and we're just at the brink. We've been preparing for this forever in many previous budgets, but here we are at the brink of 5 potential transportation projects under contract this year. That's pretty phenomenal, isn't it?
That's amazing. And Mayor, you and I have been working together for a long time, and Julie as well. We remember a time when we had all these projects we were working on behind the scenes with NCDOT and CRTPO and all those other acronyms that work, organizations that work on projects, and building up some funds, setting funds aside to be able to fund these projects. And we had all these projects we were working on, and we were telling citizens that, hey, they're coming, and they are here. To your point, we have 3 very active projects under construction right now. As citizens drive around the town, they'll see them. They've been several years coming, and to your point, we have 2 more that we anticipate by the end of the year will be under construction as well.
Yeah, that's just phenomenal, and I hope our folks realize, the listeners do realize, that this has not been an easy task. It really has, because I think per capita, the amount of projects that we will have under contract here in Cornelius far exceeds any other municipality in and around our comparable size.
I would agree with that.
I mean, I think I'm very proud of that, and but it hadn't been easy either.
It hasn't. It's been a process and a journey. I'll use your word, Mayor. It has been a journey, and you of all people know the hard work it takes to get there, not only at the staff level, but at the board level, and working with, at the time it was called MUMPO, now it's called CRTPO. You were the town representative on that, and getting all those projects in the hopper, if you will, and here we are. And as you mentioned, the citizens identified their priorities in the budget survey, and every single year their number 1 priority is transportation, and that is where the bulk of the funding for the town has gone into, is for transportation, and that, and our number 2 priority, which is public safety. But between those 2, we have put our money where our mouth is, if you will.
Exactly, and it doesn't get any better than that. When you listen to your citizens and they believe that you're working on their behalf, I think they're pretty grateful for that. We need for them to see the results. And what's going to happen next here in our town is they're going to go, what about all these orange barrels? They're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. What can we do about that? Well, we got to have these roads, folks. So we're going to talk a little more detail about this. This is Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam, and we'll be right back.
More About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam, coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, partly cloudy, temperatures warm up to around 80 as we go into our Thursday afternoon. The storm chance is lower today, but a few isolated scattered showers or a pop-up thunderstorm possible as we go into this evening. Our Friday, though, will bring the better chance for storms for the week as a cold front pushes through. A line of scattered thunderstorms possible. A few could be stronger, even severe, with damaging wind and hail for our Friday afternoon. That's your forecast. The WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Ladies' Night is back at Bin 110 in Cornelius on Thursday, May 29th, courtesy of Lake Norman Woman Magazine. Whether you are new to the area or just need a night out with the girls, this is the perfect, no-pressure way to unwind, meet new friends, and enjoy a night of good vibes and great drinks. Invite your crew and make it a night to remember. Ladies' Night at Bin 110 begins Thursday at 6:30 p.m. with the Kaylee Grace music debut beginning at 8:30. The 500 Club in Statesville presents live music Saturday night with Lead Not Follow performing at 6 p.m. The band features classic rock, alternative, pop, country, and original music. Golfing and entertainment are all at the 500 Club this weekend. The Dock and Rock Music Festival, one of the highlights of the summer outdoor concert season, returns on Saturday, June 7th at Waterside Bar and Grill in Catawba. The music begins at 4 p.m. with performances by Ryan Joyce, Chasen Phoenix, the Presley Layton Band, and Danny Carr and the Skeleton Crew. Tickets are only $10 in advance and still a bargain at $20 at the door. Search Dock and Rock at ticketleap.events. Dock and Rock is hosted by Ryan Joyce, Waterside Bar and Grill, and is powered by Waves Entertainment. We will see you on Saturday, June 7th at Waterside Bar and Grill in Catawba for the Dock and Rock Music Festival. The Cookout Summer Shootout Series is back for race number 1 on Monday, June 9th at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Watch racing's future stars battle in Legends cars and Bandoleros on the front stretch quarter mile. Don't miss the next generation of racing royalty. Click on charlottemotorspeedway.com for ticket information or head to Gate 4 at the Speedway for the weekly promotions. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Kane Center for the Arts. We're more than a venue. We're the heart of creativity in the Lake Norman region, bringing exceptional visual arts, performing arts, and unforgettable gallery experiences to our community. Discover the difference. kanearts.org.
It's About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
And we're back. Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam. Got a great show going as we talk about our 2026 budget for the town of Cornelius. It sounds like a unexciting topic, but it's really not. It's the basic document that gives us the guidelines as we go into the new year, new fiscal year, that is. It starts on July the 1st. So we have put a lot of time and effort, which is led by our finance director, Julie Niswonger, and also our town manager, kind of leads the way, and that would be Andrew Grant. And so we're very glad to have them with us today to give this some final discussion before this comes before the Board of Commissioners on Monday night for a likely vote. And I'm looking forward to getting this budget behind us. It's a grueling process, and it's time to move on to the next challenge here in our town. So looking forward to putting that to bed, and hopefully it's well on its way. So, we were talking a lot about our top priority in our town, which is definitely transportation, but a close second is public safety. So public safety is certainly something to take seriously here in our town. There's a couple major things going on in that particular regard. In our police department, it's a matter of recruiting and making sure we've got the officers in place to serve our citizens. And we have a great police chief and a great operations within our police department. Lake Patrol, it's all part of that. Our totally unique and wonderful animal shelter is part of their division. And so we lean on our police department and our police chief quite a bit to certainly fill some voids in this community and keep us safe in that regard. The other piece of it is our fire department. We have needed for some time to transition our fire department into a full-time fire department with full-time employees in our town government. Comes under the umbrella of the town of Cornelius, not a nonprofit 501c3 entity. And that's worked well for our town for a while, but it is no longer a sign of the times. You can't run a fire department that way anymore. So we're having to pull it in-house, and we're on a process of doing that. But it's pretty expensive, isn't it, Andrew?
It's not cheap to add people, that's for sure.
Exactly, exactly. So in our budget, Julie, how many firemen are we planning on adding this year?
3.
Three is in
Yes,
the
sir.
budget this coming year. That doesn't sound like a lot out of a total of probably 70 or so. Is it that many?
So we have between the part-time staff, as you mentioned, Mayor, working for the 501c3 Cornelius Limited Fire Rescue, and then our full-time firefighters. It's a combination of about 70 firefighters on the roster currently.
Right.
Mhm.
Lot of people, a lot of employees, but it's got to be done.
Correct.
It has absolutely got to be done. And I understand we've got 10 or 11 more years in this transition process. That's a long time. I would love to speed that up, but to speed it up creates budget challenges because it's expensive. And we chose to do this. We have great fire service, even in conjunction with the Cornelius Limley Volunteer Fire Department, which is not volunteer anymore.
Correct.
There's nobody over there that's a volunteer. They do get paid. They work other places and they get paid, but to do this part-time work. But it's worked very well for us. But there's a point in time you can't find these people anymore. So you've got to bite the bullet and take them under your wing and make them town employees and give them the benefits that the town employees get. And that's where we're heading. And it's been a great journey to get there. But public safety, it takes a pretty big hunk out of our community. Julie, that as far as the level of employee expenses that has, the percentage that's particularly under the police department.
So as far as like the total police budget, they account for approximately it's going to be 29% of the FY26 budget.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just police. That doesn't include fire or communications or animal control because those are all under the public safety umbrella as well.
Gotcha. So when you add all that up, you're probably bumping in and around a little over 50%.
Yes, sir.
Of the salaries that we pay through the town of Cornelius is regarding public safety. And that's important. If you don't have good public safety, you've got something missing in your community, in any community. One of the other really cool things that we offer here in the town of Cornelius is a 911 call-in service. In other words, when you're in the town of Cornelius and you dial 911, you're not calling Charlotte. You're calling Town Hall, or actually the police department here. And that makes us unique, and that allows us to control the level of response time that we provide our citizens. I just hope we never have to get so serious about expenses we have to do away with that.
Yeah, it's one of those. If you rewind the clock several decades ago, a lot of towns, cities, counties, had their 911 center. We've had it for decades as well. We have held on to it for the very reason you say, Mayor. It provides a level of service that we want to provide to our community, and also that our citizens expect. And a main difference, and I'm not being critical of anyone, but when you call 911 and our dispatchers answer, our town of Cornelius dispatchers answer, they know where you're at. We have heard some unfortunate stories of other towns who may call into a dispatch center in a much larger town or larger city, if you will, and those dispatchers are not located in their town that they're calling from, and they don't know where they're at. And so that is critical information to be able to respond quicker.
Right. That's been a joy to behold in terms of getting the needed help out to our citizens, and quality folks work in that call center. Mm-hmm. And we intend to keep it that way. So, but our police department, they have unique relationships throughout our town. I love our Lake Patrol unit. It has expenses associated with it, but we do get a little help from the county because we do actually patrol Lake Norman, the Mecklenburg County portion of Lake Norman. We have a responsibility of doing that. So they supplement us a little bit for some help there to make sure we do that properly. And that's been very, very helpful. But, you've got to have boats, you've got to have equipment, you've got to have officers, and, you add up the expense of all that, and it makes a difference to your budget. And that's all rolled up under the Cornelius Police Department. So that's been an interesting aspect of keeping our public safety. I remember the day when we took over Lake Patrol. We took it to a whole different level. We really did. If you had to call 911 in Charlotte and get them to come up here, put a boat in the water, and provide services from that standpoint, it's way different now, thankfully. So we've come a long way with it. But, as I remind our board almost every meeting, this stuff ain't free. It just isn't free. So if you want the services that are attached in any area of town government or government overall, somebody's got to pay for it. It has expenses associated with it, and you've got to come up with the revenue to offset those expenses, and that's what we do. We have to balance our budget, don't we, Julie?
Yes, sir. We're required to.
And that's a requirement from the state of North Carolina?
Yes, that's a general statute.
So our budget comes under a lot of review from different levels of really state government, I guess. Is that true?
Yes, you could say that. I mean, you have to follow, all the guidance that's, underneath the local government commission.
Yeah, the local government commission has been an entity that I have learned a lot about, particularly when we're selling bonds.
Yes.
That's quite a process to do that. And what I mean about selling bonds is basically taking on debt. When you sell a bond, you have to make payments to support that. And our town has been pretty active in that particular financing vehicle to basically keep us moving forward with some great services that we provide, but at the same time, not you're creating debt when you do that. So when you create debt, you got to make the payments. When you make the payments, you got to have revenue to do that. So fortunately, our board has figured out you got to figure out a way to back that up when you actually sell bonds, and that's worked pretty well for the last two issuances. So I want to move on briefly here before we get into our next portion of the show, and start a conversation about Parks and Rec. That's a pretty cool topic. It really is. But it would be the third aspect of our budget and the third aspect of what we have to plan for. And tell us about our bond referendum that got approved. I was really proud of that this last election.
Yeah, so we have here in the past 15 years really matured as an organization, matured as a town, and understanding in order to provide the services and capital projects, we really do need to be able to fund capital projects, especially large ones, which things like bonds. And as you mentioned, Mayor, we had a bond campaign and a bond referendum that was approved last year, right around 60% approval, which is very high when it comes to referendums being approved. And that was for a $20 million bond package for Parks and Rec. It's being earmarked, if you will, half of that for land acquisition so we can build future parks into the future and preserve some open space into the future, because as we know, we're a small town to begin with, and that land is going to disappear if we don't take advantage of that currently today. And then the other half is to go towards building some projects and improving parks, building onto our parks, expanding our parks today to provide service to our citizens today.
That's awesome. Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam, and we'll be right back for the next segment.
Don't go anywhere. We'll return with more of Mayor Woody Washam and About Town in just a moment on 105.9 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, partly cloudy, temperatures warm up to around 80 as we go into our Thursday afternoon. The storm chance is lower today, but a few isolated scattered showers or a pop-up thunderstorm possible as we go into this evening. Our Friday, though, will bring the better chance for storms for the week as a cold front pushes through. A line of scattered thunderstorms possible. A few could be stronger, even severe, with damaging wind and hail for our Friday afternoon. That's your forecast. The WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hi, This is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Opening doors to your future. Literally, buying, selling, or building your portfolio? Put the team at Centralina Realty to work for you. We're in the center of North Carolina and at the center of your journey. CentralinaRealty.com.
Yeehaw for rodeo season at Harrison's, the home of work, western, and wow. Whether you compete or cheer from the stands, Harrison has the looks to help you wow the crowd. Get western classics and the latest styles from Harriet, Cinch, Rock and Roll Denim, and Wrangler. Find us in Mooresville.
Hey folks, you know Randy Marion is the king of price when it comes to buying a new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle, but how about king of price when it comes to the service department? Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, Randy Marion Ford Lincoln in Statesville has you covered on tires, brakes, batteries, wipers, you name it. Any service you need on your vehicle, regardless of the make or model, come see Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville Service Department or Randy Marion Ford Lincoln Service Department today.
Spring has sprung, and so have the savings. Drum Landscape Supply is your go-to for mulch, stone, sand, and specialty plants, and they're offering 50 to 70% off pavers and natural stone. Your dream landscape is just one stop away. Hurry in and save big, only at drumlandscapesupply.com.
But one objective.
Honey, can you turn that down?
Ladies.
Honey, can you turn it down?
Ever feel like your house is shaking every time your husband watches TV?
What? Honey, can you turn it down?
That's not surround sound. That's hearing loss. Beltone in Mooresville and Cornelius can help. With expert hearing tests and top quality hearing aids, you can finally enjoy your TV without shaking the whole neighborhood. Visit nchearing.com to schedule your free hearing test today. That's nchearing.com.
Welcome to a Bible Minute with Pastor Randy Mitchell from Temple Baptist Church in Statesville.
The Bible says in 1 John chapter 2, verse number 15, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him." Folks, when God talks about loving the world is not just the breaking of the Ten Commandments. The world is a system, and the worldly system is orchestrated by Satan. It feeds off of our fleshly sinful nature, and it's everything about us that wants to influence us and affect our life toward things that dishonor God. The next verse talks about the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life. These are all the things, the categories of the love of the world. But obviously, a relationship with God is a love relationship. We have to make a choice. You can love the world or you can love God, but you can't do both.
Thanks for listening to a Bible Minute with Pastor Randy Mitchell here on WSIC.
Join the Harbor Hippos family. It's not just a game, it's a community. Join the fun this summer at Huntersville Athletic Park. From single tickets to season passes and sponsorship opportunities, we've got something for everyone. Visit harborhippos.com to get your tickets and gear today. Opening day is May 30th. Don't miss out.
Take your life by the reins and let the horses at Willow Equine heal and empower you. Located in Mooresville, our services help with trauma, anxiety, depression, and addiction. Love life again. Visit willowequine.com today.
The button pushing stops here.
WSIC. Local starts here.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. A weakening economy in which people bargain hunt for their purchases will push PC sales lower, and U.S. tariffs, especially on China, will pull its costs higher. That warning comes from HP, which has cut its full-year earnings forecast. The PC and printer maker's profit was hit last quarter by tariffs and by spending to move manufacturing out of China. HP is boosting production in Vietnam, Thailand, India, Mexico, and the U.S. New rules restricting some U.S. tech exports to China will likely cost AI chip maker NVIDIA $8 billion in revenue this year. But it's okay with that because it's forecasting $45 billion in revenue just this quarter. Thanks to its ever-broadening lineup of hardware and software and its dominance in AI processing, NVIDIA blew the lid off earnings expectations in the just-finished quarter. Also, shares are up 4%. Wall Street's indexes are higher. The Dow barely, gaining less than 0.1%. NASDAQ up 0.5%. S&P rising 0.33%. Add your O'Day. Bloomberg Radio.
24/7 worldwide, non-stop.
WSIC.
Local starts here. Call now to speak with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam at 844-STUDIO-4. It's About Town on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Yes, I do hope you will call us with any questions you may have about what's going on with the budget at the town of Cornelius. We have the answers. We got the folks in this room that can give you the answers in terms of the pros and cons and the good and the bad of this budget. So I hope you'll give us a buzz and just ask your own specific questions about where this is headed. So we were talking about our third priority as far as voters are concerned and the citizens of Cornelius related to Parks and Rec. We've got a $20 million bond that has just passed, and that is going to be some opportunities to really take our parks facilities to the next level. But, I'm all about parks, but you got to plan ahead a little bit. The old saying is in this town, land ain't cheap and they aren't making any more. What about that? I don't think anybody can argue with that, but that's just kind of the way it is. And, with that, if we don't grab it sooner than later, it's probably going to actually go out of reach for us. And do y'all think about that on staff a lot, Andrew?
We do, and there was a concerted effort leading up to the bond referendum in our Parks Master Plan. We went through several months, I think it was about a 12-month process to update our Park Master Plan, which basically, as you say, Mayor, lays out the vision for what Parks and Recreation looks like in the future, which includes where do we want new parks? Because we know we need new parks. And if you're going to have new parks, you need to buy the land for it. So it's all a multi-step process to get there, in addition to what type of facilities we need. So all that went into the planning efforts for what the $20 million bond package was looking like.
Yeah, that was quite a process, and but very important to think through that. We had a lot of involvement and a lot of input from our Parks Board, too, I think, in that process. And they have some really important and good opinions about how this ought to play out in terms of future park acquisitions. I can remember the day growing up here where, we had Legion Park and we had the ball fields over at Cornelius Elementary. So we have truly come a long way.
Yeah.
I know the reopening of the new and much improved Legion Park a week or so ago was pretty incredible. One of my childhood memories, a lot of my childhood memories took place at Legion Park. So, we have come a long way, but we're not there. We've got a lot of more services to provide. So we've got some good things happening at Bailey Road Park coming up. I believe we talked about earlier today.
We sure do. So we have if you haven't been by Bailey Road Park, please go by and you'll see some construction going on currently. We have a project underway to put in a bona fide court complex at our Bailey Road Park. We have and have had for several years 3 tennis courts, and we need more tennis courts. We also would like to drive some athletic tourism as well by having tournaments. So we're underway with a project to convert those 3 tennis courts into 10 dedicated pickleball courts, because pickleball, if you know anything about court sports, has gained popularity like crazy. And we have a lot of citizens in our town who love playing pickleball, but we also have a lot of folks who play tennis as well, a lot of associations that we partner with. So we're also constructing 12 new tennis courts as well. And with that comes the cost of not only those courts, but additional parking, lighting. Eventually, we have plans to install a new restroom facility, and the list goes on and on. But the goal is to have a court complex there, and we anticipate a ribbon cutting here in the next few months, likely towards the end of the summer. But in terms of the budget for next year, also if you have a son, a daughter, or someone close to you who has played soccer in Cornelius, likely they've played soccer on one of our fields at Bailey Road Park. And there are some turf fields out there. They're about 11 years old, and they have been played to death, if you will, loved to death with all the playing time that's been on there. Those fields were installed in partnership with the formerly called the Charlotte, I'm drawing a blank as to what the name of their organization was originally.
Independence?
They're the Charlotte Independents currently, but I'm trying to remember what they were. The Rapids.
Carolina Rapids.
Thank you. Yes, they were the Rapids before. Thanks, Julie. So we partnered with them 11 years ago where they paid approximately a very large amount, almost 85% of the amount of the capital cost for those fields. It's time to replace them. And so next year's budget, we're going to replace those 2 fields. And we have almost an equivalent agreement with Charlotte Independence where they're putting 85% of the capital project cost towards replacing those fields next year. So we'll be doing that over the winter time, if you will. So we'll be ready for play in the spring.
Boy, that's a win-win, isn't it?
It is.
A win for their organization and a win for the town. And it worked so well before. I can remember when the first turf fields were installed. It was a big deal, but they do wear out.
They do.
That's just the way things happen.
Yeah, just like carpet, it almost wears out like carpet.
It really does, and it's got all the elements on top of it, and a lot of rough play and cleats and all that good stuff that's in the picture there. So, well, that's pretty exciting for Bailey Road. We've been working on that for years, and great progress as it relates to where we are with moving that project ahead, and just so excited about getting those courts opened, and it's going to be pretty transformative as it relates to our Parks and Recs programming here in town. So really excited about that, and glad we're satisfying some of this need for pickleball. My goodness, it has caught on fire, and we have tried to keep up with it, and it's been difficult. It really has, and but here we go. So that's going to be pretty cool. So. We've also got some longer range plans for our other parks here in town too, like Robbins. Isn't that correct?
We sure do. So back to that park bond referendum for $20 million. Half of it set aside for land acquisition, as we discussed. The other half is for facility improvements, expansions of parks, current parks, and improving current parks. And one of them, as you mentioned, Mayor, is Robbins Park on the west side of town. It's a park that a lot of people love and enjoy. There's a tremendous amount of space there for future expansion, and we have plans for multiple phases of expansions. We will utilize some of those park bond funds to put in a couple more phases out at Robbins Park, which will include things like a cross-country 5K trail all around the park. We'll reconstruct our Frisbee golf. We'll put in some more multi-purpose fields out there, which are needed. Obviously, some parking. We also have a outdoor, I will call it a mini amphitheater space as well out there for smaller events and smaller, more intimate type concerts as well.
Right. One of the interesting aspects of really town government is the relationships that we work through with those that can help provide grants and funding for our town. So I really want to talk about that, particularly when we come back in our next segment. And we do a really good job in seeking those grants and winning those grants. And it really is a nice supplement. Mecklenburg County has certainly been good to us, and we're very grateful for that as we worked in conjunction with them on parks and greenways and many other things of that nature. So, I'm excited about the additional possibilities of working on those grants, and it really offsets some impact on our own taxpayers. So I'm tickled about our efforts on that. So we'll be talking a little more detail about that as we come back. So this is Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam, and we will be right back for our final segment.
More About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam. Coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, partly cloudy. Temperatures warm up to around 80 as we go into our Thursday afternoon. The storm chance is lower today, but a few isolated scattered showers or a pop-up thunderstorm possible as we go into this evening. Our Friday, though, will bring the better chance for storms for the week as a cold front pushes through. A line of scattered thunderstorms possible. A few could be stronger, even severe, with damaging wind and hail for our Friday afternoon. That's your forecast. the WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Ladies' Night is back at Bin 110 in Cornelius on Thursday, May 29th, courtesy of Lake Norman Woman Magazine. Whether you are new to the area or just need a night out with the girls, this is the perfect, no-pressure way to unwind, meet new friends, and enjoy a night of good vibes and great drinks. Invite your crew and make it a night to remember. Ladies' Night at Bin 110 begins Thursday at 6:30 p.m. with the Kaylee Grace music debut beginning at 8:30. The 500 Club in Statesville presents live music Saturday night with Lead Not Follow performing at 6 p.m. The band features classic rock, alternative, pop, country, and original music. Golfing and entertainment are all at the 500 Club this weekend. The Dock and Rock Music Festival, one of the highlights of the summer outdoor concert season, returns on Saturday, June 7th at Waterside Bar and Grill in Catawba. The music begins at 4 p.m. with performances by Ryan Joyce, Chasing Phoenix, the Presley Layton Band, and Danny Carr and the Skeleton Crew. Tickets are only $10 in advance and still a bargain at $20 at the door. Search Dock and Rock at ticketleap.events. Dock and Rock is hosted by Ryan Joyce, Waterside Bar and Grill, and is powered by Waves Entertainment. We will see you on Saturday, June 7th at Waterside Bar and Grill in Catawba for the Dock and Rock Music Festival. The Cookout Summer Shootout Series is back for race number 1 on Monday, June 9th at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Watch racing's future stars battle in Legends cars and Bandoleros on the front stretch quarter mile. Don't miss the next generation of racing royalty. Click on charlottemotorspeedway.com for ticket information or head to Gate 4 at the Speedway for the weekly promotions. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
What says I love you more than a beautifully organized home? Join Closets by Design as we celebrate Mom all month long with custom projects, free consultation, and a huge 40% off. Plus, mention this ad and get an extra 15% off just for Mom. ClosetsByDesign.com.
It's About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
And we're back, Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam, and we're back for our final segment of today as it relates to the town budget of the town of Cornelius, an effort that has been pretty grueling over the past few months, and it sort of catapults up to the vote, which is coming most likely this coming Monday night at our town board meeting, and we'll put this thing to bed, I hope, and move on to other challenges and priorities that our town needs to deal with. So I'm here with our town manager and our town finance director, two experts on this budget, and I appreciate Julie and Andrew helping me through this and keeping it as exciting as possible. So, you know, the last topic we were on was the parks and the future of our parks and recs, and you know, how this new bond referendum that was passed by our citizens is going to make a really, really significant difference here in the town of Cornelius. And it's totally going to keep us on the map. We're on the map as it relates to park and rec. I know that we have the name of one of, if not the best, park and rec department in the county. And that's the place we want to be. That's what our goal is. And we do a good job, and we've got the people in place to get that done. So it's a beautiful operation over at Parks and Rec. But, you know, we spend a lot of time with our town making sure we don't just think year to year to year. You've got to do a little strategic planning for the future. And that's what I think keeps us intact as a great town and makes sure that we do have the resources in place to keep this ball rolling in the right direction and meet our citizens' expectations. You know, that's really what it's all about, is our citizens expect certain services from the town, and in the most transparent way possible, we try to provide those. And we didn't cut any services, did we, Andrew? That was tough.
No, we did not. So for next year, as Mayor, as you mentioned, every year we do look at that, and we are extraordinarily efficient in terms of what it takes, the cost it takes for us to provide those services. We actually were able to cut $98,000 worth of operating expenses, recurring real-world operating expenses out of the budget, and we did that to become more efficient, and also because we knew we had other new items we wanted to fund for next year as well.
Yeah, inflation impacts town government just like it does you and I individually. I think a lot of our citizens don't think inflation is a factor, but it certainly is. Things go up as it relates to the way we have to do business. Salaries go up. Expenses just simply go up. And to maintain that level of service when that's going on, it's got to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you searched pretty long and deep for ways to make this budget balance. And how did you do that? How did that ever happen?
So you want to give a lot of credit to Julie, her staff, and also the department heads, and also the board as well. You and the board. It is a team effort to get there. We have a lot of conversations about what's important to all of us, and of course, taking a lot of feedback from the citizens with the budget survey. But it's also really looking at, much like you would for any private business, much like you would if you manage your home finances, literally what expenses are we going to have next year? What revenues do we think we're going to have to cover that? And you have to make some very hard choices sometime to determine what your priorities are. And unfortunately, you just can't fund everything. And that's why the prioritization process is really important.
Yeah, and we had many discussions about raise taxes, don't raise taxes. How does that? How important is it? Can we cover ourselves without raising taxes, which is certainly the preference of anybody, to keep that particular aspect that impacts our citizens, particularly in these times where inflation has just gone crazy. Mm. And you and I and everybody has been impacted at the grocery store, price of eggs, you name it. We have been impacted. So with that, you've got to plan for some element of that in any budget we do. So talk about our major sources of revenue. Certainly they're property taxes, but we have other major sources of revenue, right?
Yeah, we certainly do. And I'll ask Julie to fact check me on this, but the number one source of our revenues is property tax, as you mentioned. And Julie, I think we're around 58% of our revenues comes from property tax.
Yes, that's accurate.
And then our second primary source is sales tax, and a lot of folks were surprised to hear that. So what I tell folks is, hey, as long as you purchase something in the county, within Mecklenburg County, Cornelius will receive a portion of that. So please stay in the county and buy within the county. Obviously, support local business as well. We want you to support Cornelius businesses, but we do receive a portion of those sales tax. And in terms of inflationary effects, we have seen our sales tax revenues grow over the previous pandemic years, if you will. Everyone's very familiar with the inflation that occurred over that 3-ish year period. And so while our costs were increasing for all the services we were providing, we were able to cover some of that with the sales tax revenue increase as a result of that inflation. But we all know the economy is cooling to a certain degree, and so we're starting to see a flattening, if you will, of that sales tax growth. We are still projecting a small amount of growth next year in sales tax, but it is certainly not what it used to be, which makes it, back to your point, Mayor, really hard to make those decisions about what you fund with the amount of revenue you have.
Exactly, and sales tax is unpredictable. There's things that could occur. I mean, 9/11 occurred. The pandemic occurred. There's things that could just occur and catch you unprepared for that. So one of the ways that your town in Cornelius stays prepared is to make sure we do have a healthy, appropriate, I should say, fund balance. Some fund balance is really our savings account. But most folks don't know that many parts of that fund balance are restricted. So tell us about that, Andrew. Tell us what the fund balance is and then how it's restricted and kind of what's left on the back end.
Right. And that's, probably the best way to equate it to daily, our daily lives and our daily own personal funds. It's a savings account, if you will. When we have a surplus at the end of the year, where those funds go, and it sits in our what's called fund balance. And the fund balance is highly regulated. We mentioned the LGC before. We have auditors that look at our books every year and audit our financial statements. So there are a lot of restricted amounts of that fund balance that are set aside for a number of reasons. So while the fund balance may appear to be a large number, for example, the amount of discretionary fund balance is actually extraordinarily low. We have a very small amount of discretionary amount in that fund balance because I often receive, and I know the board does too, well, hey, why don't you utilize the fund balance? And the vast majority of that is set aside for certain purposes that we know we're going to have a use for those fund balance amounts in the future for things like capital projects. There's restricted amounts we have to set aside per the LGC and also per the statutes as well.
Yeah, and that's a pretty scientific way to make sure you got that coverage and that backing, and that is certainly one of the things that the LGC looks at, particularly when we go trying to issue bonds. Because anytime, even though voters approve it, doesn't mean that they're going to let us issue those bonds. We do have to go back and ask for permission, don't we, Julie?
Yes, it's quite the process.
Quite a regulated process
Yes,
in our
sir.
state, as it should be, because it'd be easy just to go take on debt and put government in trouble, and we're not going to do that. We're absolutely not going to do that here in the town of Cornelius. So we're going to guard against that to the extent we can. But I love the way we plan ahead. I love our 5-year projections that we do, as well as 10. We take it out to 10. We do assume that there's no revenue change or increase in the process, but it can easily show you where those needs for revenue increase is going to happen. So, we talk a lot about the cliff and where that prediction might come. So where would that be based on this year's budget, Andrew?
Yeah, so it's an excellent question. So just to rewind a little bit, the town has an adopted fund balance policy, and that fund balance policy says we shall not go any lower than 40% of our annual general fund expenditures. And so right now we are, and you stated this earlier, we're financially healthy, fiscally healthy today, and we have been for the previous few years. And we're well above that 40% mark. But we do project and forecast ahead 10 years into the future, and we look at our projected expenses, capital projects, operating personnel costs, and then also anticipated revenues as well. And we're currently projected that in 3 years, in fiscal year 29, that we will be below our 40% minimum level. So, and again, it's something that we've been forecasting, projecting for the past several years, and it's something to keep in mind as we plan for our future tax rate and operating cost, if you will.
Sure, that's awfully critical to do that, and it's just keeping your eye on the ball at all times, and you can't take your eye off of it. It's been a great discussion today, and I'm grateful to both of you folks. You do such a good good job for our town government and for our citizens, and I'm grateful to you. I lean on you quite a bit, keeping our town safe financially. It's very important. This is Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam. Thanks for listening today. We will be back with you next week. Thanks a lot.
Serving you better than ever before. 105.